This SaaS tool helps big brands turn messy data into instant insights. But their homepage, it read more like a BI power tool than the systems level solution it really is. In this query jam, we fix that, starting with a sharper wedge around do more with less, rewiring the FAQ to kill real objections, and cutting the buzzwords that were quietly hiding their value. Let's get into it.
I'm Ibrahim Ashkar, the CEO and co-founder of Lumi AI. We're an enterprise analytics platform. We work primarily with mid-sized brands all the way to Fortune 10 retailers like Kroger, Compass Group, and Deloitte. And what we do is we help them explore their data, find insights, generate visuals from large structured data sets by just asking questions in plain language. It's an AI data analyst, in other words.
Awesome. And how did you come up with the idea for Lumi?
I guess I was just trying to solve a problem that I faced in all the roles I've ever worked at, or all the companies I've ever worked at or consulted for. I spent my career in data and analytics. Most recently, I was a director of data at a unicorn startup. Um, and noticed that despite all these investments companies made in centralizing data to a data warehouse, building dashboards, so that business users can just interact with them in self-service analytics, I noticed that we're still getting bombarded with requests from across the organization. And this just is there's more demand for insights than we can keep up for. And so it just creates a backlog. Business users are frustrated. They're unable to make data-driven decisions as quickly as they want. We're constantly overloaded with work and saw that with large language models, there's a real opportunity to streamline a lot of the manual data and analytic tasks that humans currently do right now. You can definitely have agents right now who can do what a data analyst does, taking human requests, drafting the SQL or Python code, generating the insights, and kind of summarizing it in a pretty way to a user. And so that's where it stems from.
Got it. Yeah. So it's really all about kind of taking your own background from working in house, and then it sounds like you also did a little bit of consulting as well, and then spun this up into a pretty successful company. Can you tell me a little bit more about who kind of is your ideal customer for Lumi? Like, it sounds like it's very much enterprise analytics, so buying committee, but like, is this kind of top down? Is this bottom up? Who is kind of the key champion, and who else needs to be involved to greenlight a pilot or a full-on rollout?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, from a company profile perspective, it's typically companies have some sort of supply chain underpinning. So those in CPG, retail, leverage off-the-shelf ERPs like SAP or Oracle to run their operations. In other words, they have sales data, inventory, procurement data sets. That's the type of companies we like to work with. And in particular, the personas we find ourselves most commonly selling into is the head of analytics, the head of supply chain, supply chain analytics, VPs, directors, heads, sometimes CDOs and things like that. The process is usually we try to run a pilot anchored around driving some sort of business value, some sort of metric we want to improve. In order to get into the door, we obviously have to pass the security clearances, legal procurement reviews our documentation, of course. And if we succeed our pilot, obviously we kind of want to continue working with them on a longer term contract, usually 1 year or 2 year agreements.
Got it. And that obviously makes sense given, if you're working with supply chain, inventory, and like these massive companies, there's a lot of data and a lot of like moving parts. What were they using before Lumi?
Yeah, before Lumi, it was just asking a human to manually do the work. So a human analyst would do it, right? All these companies have dashboards. All these companies have invested in centralizing data. But despite all these investments, people still don't get what they want from dashboards. Not saying dashboards are bad, they're a great starting point. But for the more custom insights, the more nuanced ones, oftentimes people try to export the data into Excel, do some analysis there. And then when they hit the limitations of Excel, they usually need someone more technical who knows SQL or Python in order to extract the insights from them directly from the data warehouse or the raw ERPs themselves. And so typically before Lumi, before agentic workflows, before LLMs, it would be, hey, let's ask my favorite go-to human data analyst to do the work. And that's what we're trying to do, automate a lot of the back office functions that existed despite having investments in dashboards and things like that.
Totally. And then for those companies that are using Lumi, are they literally able to just do a lot more, a lot faster, or are they even able to kind of replace some of the data people within their team?
I would say the value prop, there's a few. You could definitely do more with less, right? You no longer need an army of analysts because with Lumi, it's available 24/7. It's codes faster than a human. It can answer anyone at any time. So it's definitely do more with less. And it's also productivity angle, right? With Lumi, it's a faster, cheaper way than the traditional methods. Think of it. Data analysts are not cheap resources, and asking them to generate a report of, hey, the shipments that are 5 days past late takes them a few hours, and you can calculate the cost of that request if you really want to. With Lumi, you get answers in seconds, and the cost per question is fraction of what it would be to ask a human.
Makes sense. Do you find yourself running into any friction from kind of the data analyst side? Are they kind of hesitant to even use this, or are they even using this at all?
They love it. They genuinely love it. There's a misconception that, hey, we're going after to take their jobs and things like that. But no, a lot of these data analysts don't like actioning on these ad hoc, low-level
Mhm.
data requests, right? They want to be freed up to working on more interesting work, and Lumi allows them to do that, right? The future of work in general in this agentic era is you're going to have an AI that does embedded in every single workflow. And so the future of work that I see for data teams is managing the systems that respond to users' questions rather than manually responding to them. So their roles and responsibility are shifting from manually doing the work to managing the system that does. And we amongst our most common power users at companies are the data resources, data analysts, data engineers, things like that.
Yeah, that's a really well interesting way to put it. So it almost sounds to me like whenever I think about positioning and I think about the homepage, I think of something called what I call a messaging wedge, aka kind of that one thing someone is thinking before they go ahead and sign up for sign up for a pilot or become a full-on customer. And it almost sounds to me like it's like, okay, like creating this really, really efficient data management system that happens to let you be able to do a lot more and a lot better than anything you have in the past. Is that accurate?
That's exactly it.
Yeah. So with that in mind, do you want to go ahead and share your screen and let's kind of walk through your homepage?
Let's do it.
So the first thing I immediately see is super clean design, good branding, a lot of things that are doing like I like the screenshot. Well done. My one question I also like that it's very, very like you picked you're clearly in the enterprise analytics category, which makes sense. And you did kind of specify a little bit more where it's supply chain, procurement, inventory, etc., which obviously makes a lot of sense just from this conversation so far. My question to you is, could you even go a step further within that H1 and within particularly in the subhead right below it and say something along the lines of what we just talked about, which is your actual way, which is managing the whole system for inventory, supply chain data, and being able to do more with less. So you actually end up being super, super, super specific.
Yeah, I think that's a good call out. We try to, I guess, over here put in the value prop of faster and cheaper. Do more with less is nowhere to be found here, and that's I think a key value
Mm-hmm.
prop that probably should be added somewhere. The H2 right now is more about what it is, or adding more clarity on what it is in plain language. But yeah, I don't, that's valid feedback.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, like you just kind of mentioned it so eloquently right there, which is like, hey, we're helping, these teams from the analysts and the data engineers all the way up into kind of the VP of analytics and everything like that, be able to kind of manage the systems and get insights so much faster. And you kind of already do that with 7 days to 30 seconds. And then how much cheaper it is in the bottom. I like that. Where I think you could actually get even more specific to the point where it will just convert into way more demos is to lose the term AI data analyst. That doesn't tell you anything. And instead be like, okay, this is actually, explaining why that matters, which is the systems angle, getting those insights instead of just trying to lean on a buzzword.
Fair enough. Yeah.
And then you said something super, super interesting. Can you walk me through kind of this assess your AI readiness and how that kind of ties into your product?
So this is just us trying to add value. If you click the assess AI readiness, it takes you to an actual uh, 2-minute form, and you get plotted on a matrix. But it's meant to just help people understand where they are in the journey. We've noticed that from our experience working with clients that there is some clients where there's higher implementation effort required, and then there's others where there's more change management concern they need to put in. And so we try to put it in a matrix over here. If it's low implementation required and there's a high likelihood of adoption, you're really ready to leverage and connect AI agents on top of your data infrastructure. But if it's high implementation effort and the likelihood of widespread adoption is low, you need to kind of really work on your foundation, centralizing the data, maybe doing a bit of the cleanup there, and also putting in a lot of the processes in place to encourage and foster a culture that is willing to experiment and try new tools. And this kind of assessment is meant to walk them through a sequence of, I forget, maybe 10 questions or so. And they eventually get to a point where they get a score with actionable recommendations on how to improve, so to speak. So it's just a show of value here.
Awesome. Are you seeing a lot of people actually take this instead of just going to do the requested demo or taking it before they do a demo? Or yeah.
So we have another one here, the banner. The banner actually works the most from what we've seen. We have regular steady stream of people submitting the assessment, and some of them have been pretty senior. I've been really impressed with the quality there. And they fill, before they get their score, they do have to fill in their details. So we do kind of use it as a lead collection mechanism, just in case they don't book a demo. And the same goes for the white paper or whatever we have in the banner here. It does kind of gated material. So we have multiple touch points. If you don't want to request a demo because it's too much of a commitment, this is usually a softer way to collecting information from folks.
I like it. I wonder though, and that's super interesting that the white paper converts way better than even the quiz, although I suspect both of them can give you kind of the sales, well, at least the MQLs and not SQLs for a lot of this as well. I do wonder though, if since you kind of mentioned you get some adoption from the AI readiness quiz, but not like, doesn't seem like you're getting like as many as you would from like demos or the white paper. If it makes more sense to maybe put that lower on the homepage, then so you're not kind of taking people away from the ones who already know about Lumi and they've already heard about you and they're already ready to request demo. You're kind of right now creating a little bit of micro friction.
Yeah, that's a fair point. We're also using it as a way to collect information and eventually publish the findings in a survey or in a report. So it's also a bit of that. Moving it a bit down may further lower the visibility we get on it. I'm not married to it. It's just something we very quickly put together to see if it would help with increasing top of funnel, really. So it's just a flavor of the month. We constantly play around with the CTAs here.
Yeah, that's a totally smart approach. And I do think you could probably maybe test out different ways, in my own experience, test out different ways on where that could go. Whether that's, having that be kind of, I know you have a resource section right up top, have that kind of be kind of the flagship in the resource section, and then also have that be a flagship. Typically where I would put this is right below kind of the final CTA, where you just have kind of a resources section or even right before it, where it's like for the people who are already kind of checking things out from you, but not quite ready for a demo, they're going to get that as a flagship resource along with the white paper, and then maybe your case studies or elsewhere from what you were kind of throwing in there could go a long way in still kind of getting that without potentially kind of diluting your conversion rate. But with that in mind,
yeah,
you
that's
want to
fair.
scroll down?
Yeah, for sure.
So I scroll down a little bit more, like kind of the product visual Like the fact that you're immediately leaning with social proof.
Oh yeah.
Um, super, super smart use of that. Again, kind of signaling, okay, a lot of really, really big name companies, so they're not alone. Um, I know you have something kind of further down on the page where you're talking about why customers choose you.
Yeah.
So my question to you is, I like this section and it really specifies you're not just any other analytics platform for like anyone, you kind of specialize in procurement, inventory, all that stuff. My question is why is this not kind of immediately after the social proof? Because it seems a lot stronger than some of the feature value props that you have kind of below it, because you're kind of explaining a little bit more about what you do.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I do think that there's probably a reordering that makes sense, and moving this further up probably is the right move, maybe even above, definitely above the different teams that we cater to. And arguably, these are just meant to be like quick features. Each one links to a different product page. So those are kind of the modules that we have. So yeah, there's definitely a point. There's definitely a point to be made about moving this further up for sure.
Yeah, and then another point is I like the fact that you are have a very visual page. You're kind of showcasing examples from within your product or other things to make it a lot more visual and a lot more tangible for what someone can actually do within Lumi. The other thing I would kind of mention is you do it, this is pretty good. I think you can make it even better by just kind of specifying the whole thing that we talked about before, which is your wedge, and kind of infusing that even more. So how I always like to think about it is the wedge up top, and then you're kind of to make sure that that's the thing that someone knows exactly that they're in the right place and this is the right platform for them. And then below that, you have this kind of wow moment where it's like, oh, I didn't even realize I could do this with Lumi. And now suddenly the product gets a lot stickier and a lot more likely for them to not only convert, but hang around for a very long period of time. And I think one of the pieces that you could do that is by explaining, okay, this is you're now managing the whole data system, but better and more efficiently. And kind of can you make sure that you're infusing all of that within each one of those features that you're highlighting?
Yeah, I definitely think there's ways to improve our homepage website in general. This is a living, breathing artifact. Our first point of how we get customers, and it's come a long way, but by all means, like I always think it should be improving. Like I'm actually not the biggest fan of it in its current form. I think it's a bit outdated. We haven't refreshed it in a few months, and that's usually when the itch starts to happen and we got to make some changes.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, that's how it should be. A homepage is something that's naturally evolving, and you want to make sure you're kind of focusing that narrative. Do you want to scroll to the next section?
Hmm.
So I like the fact that you're now specifying, okay, these are the data sources that you're using. Makes a ton of sense, makes it very easy and very clear for someone to kind of immediately go on your homepage and see, is this going to work for me? Same with the tailored data models. Scroll down. No notes here. Makes a lot of sense. It's super clear. Now, my next question, and this is something I've seen across dozens of these query jams that I've done now, and then also something that I do whenever I'm like doing messaging and copywriting work for clients as well, is I think you kind of fall into the same trap of this, which is using FAQs more for SEO as opposed to where on a homepage, like attraction killers. So instead of putting, what is a knowledge base, or what does onboarding look like, which, well, that one you might actually want, but like what is an knowledge base and things like that, could you actually be utilizing a smarter way to use FAQs as objection killers? So what are the 3 to 5 biggest reasons that people do a demo or don't even sign up for a demo, and then just do not convert at all?
Yeah, I think our FAQs are lacking.
Yeah.
I look at them here and they should address the most common objections that we hear. This was just these FAQs were copied over from older versions of the website
Mm-hmm.
when we didn't have as much of a clear signal as to what the major objections are. But now that we do, we should probably be rejigging this. Like onboarding is definitely one that should stay there.
Yeah.
My data is not ready. There should be a question around that. How you differ from certain other competitors should probably maybe potentially be there, and with links to them all and things like that. So Yeah, this needs love without a shadow of the doubt.
Totally. So with that in mind, to kind of dive a little bit deeper, what are the biggest objections?
Um, I would say like it always comes down to there is a few. The biggest ones that come would be like our data is not ready.
Mhm.
Um, or hey, we're in the midst of an implementation. We need to work on our data before we can start using Lumi. And I don't think that's like we can work with clients regardless of where they are in their maturity, so it's not an issue, but it does come up. The other one is around security, data security. Um, there's all sorts of questions about that people always have initial objections about. Third is, hey, we're building something internally, or hey, we can probably build something internally with some of the tools that Snowflake gives us. How are you different than that, and things like that. And the standard one is we keep getting confused for a BI tool. Um, we're not like a dashboarding tool. We're not a tool it's not AI to help you build dashboards, it's AI to help you find insights. And so just trying to differentiate that from Power BI or Tableau is a big one. We actually love clients who use Tableau and Power BI. It's a very great complementary tool to that, versus a tool that's trying to go head to head against it. So I would say those are probably the biggest ones.
Yeah, I would definitely lean into all of those and include those in a question and in an answer right within your FAQ. And to your point about getting confused with BI tools, like anyhow you even integrate with them, I'd almost move that even higher up on your homepage because I didn't know any of that at all until you brought that up. And that just feels like, oh, if you actually are integrating with a Tableau type of tool and it actually makes it even better, I would actually lean into that.
Yeah.
I didn't even put that as a value prop in addition to being in your FAQ.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
Awesome. Scroll down to the next section. So I like this. You have your testimonials. I would maybe a couple of nitpicky things to make these even stronger, like the fact you do 6 of them, rule of 3, whether it's the 3, 6, 9, whatever it is, this tends to convert way better in my own experience. One thing you can even do to make it even more open is the ones that are anonymous with no profile photo. If you have ones that actually have a photo or you can use it, it's going to help you out. But again, that's like a super small thing. And then the other one is I would move this directly before the FAQ, just typically from an anchoring perspective, that tends to convert better.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's funny, we're a bit behind on this. There's a few that need to be added, and I see, some of these we do have pictures and we can add actual companies, so we should do that. It just hasn't been given enough love. Again, just the bottom parts of our homepage have not been given enough love.
Totally. I mean, it's super, super common, but yeah, that entire section, like, yeah, it's like the smallest thing you can do, and it actually makes a big difference. And
Yeah.
then scroll down. So yeah, you have your final CTA. I like this, makes a ton of sense. I would say in general, maybe get rid of the new standard for enterprise analytics and just go further reinforce kind of your actual messaging wedge instead of something that's a little bit more generic. And then to our point from before, move your AI readiness quiz plus the white paper again. You can keep that one in the notification bar, but also just have it free right below it. So for the people who aren't ready to book a demo, that's like that space right between the final CTA and the footer is a great place to put those resources that you want to drive people to who aren't ready yet.
Yeah, that's good. That's a great call out. Put additional resources under the CTA.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a reason it works. I mean, I do that all the time, and it just is a really easy way to kind of put in your secondary CTAs, particularly when you have a longer sales cycle or a buying committee, to kind of build up that trust without having to just immediately hammer booking a demo.
Yeah, that's good. There's probably like three things we can put here: the quiz, the white paper, and then one other blog or resource or something like that.
You can even just put, I've seen a lot of people use their case study section as the other one where they
Yeah,
can do that right there.
yeah, that's a good point. I was thinking case studies should be further up, but it's a good point to put it. Read more of our case studies. Yeah, case study is probably the best one. You're right. This was quite fun actually. Walking through the homepage and just kind of looking at it again. I don't spend too much time doing that these days, but it usually comes in waves where I just go in and have to kind of hammer it. But it's good feedback. There's some really actionable things that we can and easily should do. And hopefully it'll improve kind of conversion on our page. So we've invested quite a bit in the website, and we've definitely seen the percentage of qualified inbound leads increase, which is good. I think some of the ideas that were put out here would only help that metric.
Totally. And yeah, that's like, like little small fixes and can just take an already good conversion rate and just make that much better.
Yeah.
Thank you again for showing up on Query Jams.
Yeah, this was fun. Thanks for having me, Jessica.